So we'll begin with B'ezrat Hashem with the final part of dreams. God willing, hopefully we'll finish it up today. And this topic would be dream interpretation, how to interpret dreams. And we'll also go through specific dreams that it says in the oral law and specifies what each dreams mean. Okay, so last time when we finished the third part of dreams, we were in the middle of discussing of a rabbi by Rabbi Yehoshua Zitron that and in his book he explains a little bit about dreams. So I want to go over two other stories that we didn't finish up yet, and it just explains a little bit more about dreams. So he says that once there was a pregnant woman who came over to him and was very troubled by her dream. She was pregnant and she was expecting a baby, and she had a dream. In her dream, her husband brought home his brother, which passed away sometime beforehand. Basically, he excavated him. He dug him out of the grave. He brought the body back into her house, and he put the body on the roof. He walked up the steps and put it on the roof. So, and that was her dream, and she was very troubled by it because she's carrying a baby, so it was a little bit more sensitive to her. So he asked her, the rabbi asked her, he said, how many steps is it to walk up from your floor to your roof? So she said, I don't know, maybe 12. So the rabbi says, I think it's probably 9. And she said, no, it's definitely not 9. So the rabbi says, in that case, I'm not going to interpret it until you go and find out how many steps exactly it was. So she says, okay, fine. She goes home, and she comes back a short while later, smiling and laughing. She's like, Rabbi, you're right, it was 9 steps. So he says, okay, so this is the interpretation of the dream. He says, what it means is that your your husband took out his brother. It means that the soul that you have inside your baby is the soul of his uncle, which is his brother. And you should name him after his deceased uncle, which is your husband's brother. And he brought him up the nine stairs to tell you that you're going to go through the 9 months of pregnancy and you're not going to miscarry. He put you on the top of the roof and he stayed there. He wouldn't remove the brother. It means that he wouldn't die like his uncle, but rather he would stay and live with you, and he'll be healthy. And she gave birth to a boy, and she named it after the brother. And afterwards she came out back and said, "Oh, excuse me." So, in any case, okay. So now I thought it was crazy how this is the rabbi that you don't get too many of these. We don't have any tissues here. All right, we're fine. So no, it's fine. If there's any tissues, okay, thank you. So, but you see, like the rabbi hit a nail, time and time again. He hits a nail on the head. So then there was another interesting story. I won't go into all the details, but basically there was a woman who came to him with a dream, and she said, "Thank you." And she said that in her dream she had a Torah scroll, and some woman came and snatched away the Torah scroll. And so she went to the rabbi. She says, "What's going on here?" So the rabbi said, "Really, you're supposed to bring a boy to bleat." And another woman came away and snatched the boy away and did the bleat herself, or something along those lines. So the woman's like, "Rabbi, that happened already." And we know dreams don't tell you about your past, unless it's a sin, it's not telling you anything about your past. So the rabbi said, so basically the rabbi she gave him her dream. He gave the interpretation. She came back to him and said, "This happened already." So the rabbi said, "Okay, but when did you dream this?" She said, "A month ago." And he says, "And when did this happen?" He says, 2 weeks ago. So he says, "What am I supposed to do? You came late to me. I'm supposed to be the blame of that." The dream came before the event. The problem is you didn't get it interpreted until a month later. So you see time and time again where you see the dream interpretations they come true. They come true if they're done right. So okay. So now let's go on to this is the part that I just wanted to finish from last time. So now if somebody dreams that they're flying, I get this question all the time. Right? Even though I want to say it up front, because usually we'll speak more about dreams interpretation, specific interpretation soon. But this dream I get all the time, that they're flying. What does it mean that if I'm flying in my dream? So generally, flying usually means a thirst for spirituality. You're thirsting for something spiritual. Not only flying, but also water. And depending a lot with we'll get into details with water. Water and flying represent a thirst for spirituality. You see yourself flying up and doing that, your soul is craving something spiritual. Right? Okay, now when you tell a person a dream that you dreamt, it's very important not to tell it in first person. So don't say, I did this, but rather in the dream, this person, who was me, whatever, he fell over here, or he did this, or he did that. That's what they say, the way when you tell a dream, you're not supposed to say it in first person. So,
why?
I don't know, doesn't give, I think, I don't remember even the source of where this was. I think it was from Rabbi Yitzhak Cohen, I heard it, and he didn't give, no source, I don't know a source, why. Generally, if it's bad, you're not supposed to speak bad about yourself. I could assume that might be the source, but your mouth is very holy. People don't understand. The things that say can turn into reality. Which we'll speak about soon. People that always speak negative will bring negativity towards them. Right? You have to be careful how you speak. So it's a possible interpretation, but it's my own. I don't know if that's in this particular thing. I haven't seen his source for it. Yeah, he just presented the information as such. The best interpreter, who should you go to interpret your dream? First of all, it has to be a righteous person. Not only a righteous person, but also shomer oblique, somebody who is doesn't waste heat and keeps his his eyes clean. So Yosef was this perfect one, right? Yosef, it says ben poat Yosef. If you intermingle the words poat, it comes potel, which in Hebrew means interpret. So Yosef was an interpreter of dreams. So, and additionally, there's another also important point that it's almost impossible not to interpret a dream without any error. Which means the dream interpretation is so complex and so hard. There's so many little details, which we'll soon see, that you're bound to get an error somewhere. Most of the time, the actual person that dreamt wouldn't even know the error because he doesn't know the right way to interpret dreams, and he wouldn't know anything different. Okay, so now the Gemara says in Brachot, page 55, it says that a dream is that it's not interpreted is like an unopened letter. Which means if you don't interpret a dream, it's like you have a letter, but you don't read it inside. So which means you don't have nothing to worry about. Right? Now, we're going to speak about it soon. The Kabbalah it's a little bit of a machloket over here. It's a little bit of an argument over here between the Gemara and the Kabbalah. What happens when you have a dream that's not interpreted? So we'll get to that soon. So there was the Gemara over there. The Gemara over there continues. Said there was once a person who had a dream, and he went in Yerushalayim to 24 different dream interpreters, and he told them the same exact dream. And each one gave him a different interpretation. And he came back and he said all 24 came true. All 24 interpretations came true to the dream. So here we see one proof is, first of all, the interpretations the dream goes after the interpretation. Right?
What was the dream?
He doesn't say. He doesn't say the dream. So, yeah. So the dream that has a very strong hold on the interpretation. When somebody interprets a dream, we're going to soon see that you should try to interpret all dreams for the good. Problem is that some dreams there's only so much that you can do, right? Some dreams are just not good, and those are ones that people have to fast for and do some serious tshuva for. Okay, so the idea is and how do you explain that? Is that in every dream, there's so many parts in it. And it could be that one interpreter focused on one part, another interpreter focused on another part. It really should have been one long interpretation. Mm-hmm. But each one focused on, each 24 focused on different parts. At the end, they all came true. Why they all came true? Because they're all part of the same dream and they all were interpreted the correct way. Okay. So, now, there was once a woman that had a dream, and she went over to Rabbi Elazar, if I'm not mistaken, and she came over to him and she said a certain dream. And he says, don't worry, this means that you're going to have a baby boy. A short while later, she gets pregnant, she has a baby boy. She comes back a short while after she gave birth, and she says, listen, I had the same dream. The rabbi says, don't worry, you're going to have a baby boy. So, short while later, she had a baby boy. Again, after that pregnancy, a short while later, she had again this dream for the third time. She went over to the yeshiva where the rabbi learns, and she inquired, where's the rabbi? And his student said, oh, he's not here at the moment, but can we help you with anything? And she said, I just so happened to have a dream, and she told him the dream. And he says, oh, this dream means that your husband's going to die. And she said, what are you talking about? She says, the rabbi said, past 2 dreams I can have it's going to be a baby boy. So the student says, this is the interpretation of the dream. Afterwards, when the rabbi came back and he heard them, he told the student, says, you killed her husband. He says, why are you interpreting the dream that way? So you have to be careful who you tell your dreams to, who you give it and interpret to. There are people I know in Israel they have it, that they advertise on the radio. Dream interpreters. Right? So, for a minimal fee, you'll call them up. They can do it on the radio. And I've heard stories where they called up these people these people are not religious. You're talking about chilonim, like they read palms. The crystal ball people. You're going to give them to interpret your dreams. So there's stories that people came up and they said dreams, and this person on the radio interpreted the dream terribly wrong, completely against the Torah, whatever it said over there. And whose fault is it? It's the fault of that person. Why are you going to bring your dreams on public radio to the whole world to hear for interpretation by a chiloni, by somebody who's not religious? So you have to be careful who you tell your dreams to. So, it was very interesting Gemara in Brachot, page 56, regarding a man by the name of Bar Hedya. Bar Hedya was a dream interpreter in the Gemara's time, right? And the Gemara brings that he was a dream interpreter, right? So he was legit. I don't think he was Jewish. His name was Bar Hedya, and he was a dream interpreter. So, how did he work? If you paid him, he interpreted favorably. If you didn't pay him, he did it not favorably. And there was once Abaye and Rabbah that they dreamt, the two rabbis, that they dreamt the same dream. They went over to this dream interpreter. One of them paid, one of them didn't. The one that paid, he gave them a good interpretation. The one that didn't pay, he gave them a bad interpretation, right? And the same exact dream. Now I want to tell you some of the dreams that an example that one of the rabbis said and how he interpreted it. So this is Rabbah. By the way, it's a long Gemara. We can't go through it, so I'm going to take out a small section of it. Rabbah said that I saw the door of the house fall. So Bahagya said, this is the one, by the way, he didn't pay. This is one he didn't pay. He says, oh, your wife is going to die. The Rabbah says, my molars and other teeth fell out. So he says, your son and daughter will die. He said, Rabbah says, I saw 2 doves flying. Barhedya said, you'll divorce 2 wives. Then Rabbah says, I saw 2 turnip heads. And Barhedya said, you'll receive 2 lashes. And one time, in the Bet Midrash, Rabbah was sitting over there, and suddenly there were 2 blind men that started fighting with each other. So the rabbi went to separate them. And one guy gave him a hit, and the other one gave him a hit, and another one raised his hand to give him a hit the 3rd time, and he says, "Oh, I only saw 2 turnips. Only give me 2 lashes." Because that's what the lashes I saw. They hit him 2 times. So then what happened was Rabbah heard that he takes money, so he went and he paid him. Didn't even put the Gemara doesn't say that now he's going to show it differently. He says, oh, he paid him now, and now watch how he interpreted. The same rabbi came with similar types of dreams. So Rabbah said, and he paid him. He says, Rabbah says, I saw a wall that would fall. So Barhedya says, oh, you'll buy property without limit. Here's where the money talks. So then he says his house fell down, and everybody came and took 1 brick from his house. So he says your teachings, the interpretation was your teachings are going to spread throughout the entire world. And he gives through other dreams. And when he paid him, great interpretations. When he didn't pay him, terrible interpretations. Right? So what happened is Barhedya was one time traveling, and Rabbah was also nearby. And as Barhedya got, I think it was on a boat, he got off the boat, Rabbah looked and he saw that a book fell out of his pocket. So he ran to get it, and he picked it out, he couldn't find him, so he flipped through the book. And in the book he saw that all dreams go after the mouth. All dreams go after the interpretation. So he said, oh, this is what he caused his wife to die, he caused his children to die, he caused all his hardship in him, all because it was in the mouth. He got very upset. He went to Barhedya, and he put basically, I think it was a curse on him or something like that. And if I'm not mistaken, Barhedya got really nervous. He says a chacham's curse gets, even if not justified, gets fulfilled. But this is certainly justified. So he went and he exiled himself. And what happened was he was sitting once by the gatekeeper to some king or something like that. And the gatekeeper said, where he went to exile, and the gatekeeper said, I had a dream that like a needle went into my finger or something like that. So he says, pay me money and I'll interpret for you. I guess I'm not paying you anything. So it's fine, I'm not interpreting anything for you. And then he comes back another day, he says, listen, I saw a worm that fell into my hand. So he says, pay me money and I'm not going to interpret it to you. And he ended up not interpreting any of his dreams, and he kept on having worms in his dream. So eventually this guy was in charge of like the king's robes. And it turns out the worms came and ate up all the king's silk robes. So the king got so upset, he punished the guy who was guarding all the robes. So before this guy was killed, he says, why are you punishing me? Punish the one that knew about it and didn't say anything, which means the dream interpreter. So they took this guy Barhedya, and they put him, they bent 2 trees down. They put a lot of people, and they bent 2 trees down. They tied each arm and each foot into 1 tree, and then they let go. And he split into 2. And that was his end. And Ramei Eliyahu explains it. It says measure for measure. It says you separated this chacham from his wife, which is considered ishtoke gugufo, which means a man is considered one with his wife. It says so too you will be, since man and wife are considered one. So and you split them, your 2 are going to be split. Now we have to. So that was the story of the Gemara. We have to understand a little bit about it. First of all, what does it mean that he opened the book and he saw that all dreams go after the mouth? I'm sure he knew it. It was in the Gemara. The Gemara says all dreams go after the mouth. How did he not know that? So the Ben Ish Chai explains it wasn't only that. That wasn't his only trick. Barhedya used to go and he used to show me your hand. He would read the palms and he'll be like, oh, okay, because of this. So your dream, and based on your palm, this is the interpretation. So he would put in all these fake stuff to throw people off, but really it was just interpretation after the mouth. So so that's why he was able to trick a lot of people and he was able to interpret it. But at the end of the day, his interpretation came true. So now we have to understand is why did such a person has such a power of interpretation? So there's once a person by the name of Rabbi Yaakov Midosh who lived about 1,000 years ago. It was one of the Baalei Tosfos who writes in the Gemara on the side. So he went and he asked a question in a dream. you could ask basically a question in the dream. There's a certain procedure which we won't really go into. You have to like fast, and you have to write a certain thing, and you put a question on paper, and you put the paper under your bed, under your pillow, you go to sleep, and when you sleep, they come in the dream and they give you the answer. So very interesting, right? Sounds like Harry Potter, but this is true. So he did this. He asked the question, right? It should be on a very high level to ask these type of things. So he asked the question. He said on the question, he says, "How come this Bar Hedya had the power to interpret dreams?" He says, "What is it that this person interpreted the power to interpret dreams?" So they told him Gzerhi, which means it was a decree from heaven. So he asked it again the next night, again in the dream, and they told him it's a decree from heaven. He asked it again the third time, and they said that each person is born with a certain type of mazal, a certain type of luck. Some person is born with this power. This person, he was born with the power of dream interpretation. So people have special, depending on their mazal, on their astrological sign, they have certain powers, and that was his power. His power was dream interpretation.
Okay, so not every person that just interprets the dream has to come true. It's only the people that was born with that particular...
Yeah, and generally speaking, the dream has to be... if you go to a righteous person, in general, dreams go after the mouth, across the board. Some people have a stronger power in that. So the question is, how do you know? We don't know, right? So unless you start asking questions in dreams, on who is the, which you shouldn't. So now first of all, we have to understand is how does this work? If this guy is interpreted good, so something good is going to happen. This guy's interpreted bad, something bad is going to happen. What about God's decision? Like how is all that going to play out? So rather, everything is ordained from heaven. God's going to put in the person's mind. If you go to the right person, he'll put in the right thing to say for the dream interpretation. If you go to the wrong person, you're putting yourself in bad hands. Now, this is also relates with the fact that you look at a dream. There's so many different ways to interpret it. So the person who's going to interpret it is going to get God's going to put the right words in mind the way that it's supposed to come out. That's why when the Bar Hedya, this dream interpreter, interpreted bad for this rabbi, he says he forgives them on all the bad dream interpretations except for his wife that died. He says for all the sufferings that came to him personally, he says that this came ordained from heaven, and that's why I understand it was for heaven. But everything that came for my wife, I can't forgive something for that's the suffering that you caused for her. So okay. Now all dreams go after the mouth except there's a very particular dream. If you dream about drinking wine, so if you're a Talmid Chacham, it's a good sign, and if you are not, then it's a bad sign. So, but additionally, we're going to speak about it also that when do the dreams when you go to somebody, you tell them a dream and they interpret it for you. When does that go? When does that complete the cycle? Is if you accept it. If you don't accept it, if it doesn't sit well with you, which we're going to soon see with Paul. Paul also had let me should I skip? Yeah, let me let's say it for the right time. It means I don't like the way that he
go to somebody else.
Yeah, you're like it has to sit well with you. Or the proof is soon going to be with Paul, which we're going to say it soon. So now there is interesting also the source. Well, here source. You like sources? Source for the Torah for this. You go Genesis chapter 41 verse 13, when Yosef interpreted dreams for the winemaker and the baker. So the 2 years after he interpreted it, what happened was the winemaker went over to to Paro, and he says, I had a dream. Paro had a dream. He says, don't worry about it. I know a guy that interpreted the dream, and he spoke about Yosef. Now when he says, Vayhi kasher patar lanu kenaya. This dream interpreter, this winemaker, what he did, he said that when Yosef interpreted the dream, the way that he interpreted, that's how it was. And you can look up the source over there. And furthermore, it says, Ish kachalamo patar, which means is that he interpreted, it wasn't just like some random interpretation, right? He's not sitting back with a cigar and he's like, all right, here's your dream. Or he's smoking a little, who knows what else he's smoking. And he says, all right, here's your dream, dude. Here's your dream. And he goes and he starts telling him, no, he interpreted he looked at all the details. And we're going to soon see now that in that specific dream, how he took all the details and he put it together like a genius. So let's start with the bakers. The baker had a dream that he was sitting in the, when he interpreted the dream only, the baker was quiet. He heard that the wine maker had his dream interpreted for the good. He's like, you know what? let me give you my dream also. And he gave him the dream and interpreted it good. His dream was that he saw 3 baskets. 3 baskets on top of his head. On the top of the bed he had bread, or like baked goods. When he had and he saw birds coming and flying and eating from the bread. So he told them, he said, in 3 days, the 3 baskets signifies 3 days. In 3 days you're going to come and you're going to be hung. And birds are going to come and eat your flesh. And that's exactly how it was. So now they went and they, the Dubin Maggid explains, how did he come to that? So he brought a story to explain it. He said there was once a king, and the king was building a magnificent palace, and he hired an artist, and he told this artist, he says, I want you to paint for me. First of all, he brought in this most specialized artist in the entire place. And he says, listen, I'll pay you any price you want. I want you to make me the most realistic painting possible. So the artist worked for months and months on this huge, gigantic painting. And it was a painting of a man holding a basket full of fruits. And when he finished it, the king saw it, he was, dumbfounded. He's like, unbelievable, this thing is amazing. And even so much so that when people walked into the room, they saw this painting, they started talking. They thought it was a person standing there holding fruit. They were like, oh, excuse me. And then when they got closer, they realized it was just a painting. It was perfect. So the king was so impressed. He says, listen, I'm going to go, and you're going to get full price for whatever you did. So, but not only that, I'm going to hire a panel of judges. If they're able to find any error in it, then I'm going to give you a bonus also. How many errors they find, I'll deduct from the bonus. So he goes and he puts it in front of a panel of judges, and the judges, he brought it outside, and all the judges came around, and they couldn't find it for hours. They're looking in all corners, everything was perfect, magnificent. So much so that the birds were even flying, and they were trying to eat the fruit. So all the judges came to the king, and they said, listen, we see no fault in this whatsoever. The king was so impressed, and the king says, okay, maybe I didn't. He says, if anybody finds an error, I give them a prize. A king gives a prize. It's not going to be a 99-cent prize, right? He says he's going to pay them handsomely. So there's one guy who was very wise, and he was in the area, and he says, he was looking at it. He was inspecting the painting for a few minutes, and then he saw, and he says, I found an error in it. So everybody was quiet. Oh, what's the error that you have? So he said that the birds. Why are the birds coming and eating the fruit? He says, if the birds are eating the fruit, are they not afraid of the man that's holding the fruit? He says, it must be that they know that the man is fake. If they know that the man is fake, that's why they're coming in there. Says the Dubin Maggid, he explains the dream. He says, you had 3 levels of baskets. On the top one, you had bread. The birds were coming and eating for you. Why weren't they scared? Why were they coming? You weren't feeding them. They were coming to you and eating. They were not scared. Rather, it must be that you were dead. That's why they were eating from you. And that's how he interpreted. He looked at all the details in the dream, and he interpreted it that way. Now let's look at Paro's dream. Paro, it says, if you look in in Exodus chapter 41, verse 1. It can't be Exodus. It has to be Genesis. I don't know why I wrote here the wrong. Yeah, it's Genesis. Parsha Miket. So he says like this. He says, you look at Paro's dream in there. It says over there, Ve'en poter otam leParo. And Paro did not have, and no one interpreted them for Paro. So the Midrash, here's another Midrash, right? The Midrash asks, this is a Midrash, if you want to look it up, in Midrash Rabbah, chapter 89. It says, what do you mean that there were plenty of people that went over and interpreted it? It says the Midrashim, certain interpretation that they gave to Paro. Number one, they told him that again, the dream was he had 7 cows, and the 7 skinny cows, and 7 fat cows, 7 stalks, each one, the small ate the big. So he goes over to them and he says, each interpreter, he posted it basically on all social media back then, and he said, listen, I had a dream, all dream interpreters come and interpret the dream. And each one came, and one interpreter said, you're going to have 7 kids, and they're going to die. I think 7 girls, 7 daughters. You're going to have 7 daughters, you're going to bury 7 daughters. The other one said, you're going to conquer 7 lands, and 7 lands are going to rebel against you. And Paul said, none of them sat with him. He said, this is not the dream. Until when? Until Yosef came, and then he interpreted it. And he interpreted it, he says, okay, now that sat well with him, right? Remember we said it has the dream, here's when you see or proof that the dream has to sit well with you. He says, that's the dream, that is interpretation. Now how did Yosef get all this information? He took all the detail. First of all, he saw that there were cows, right? There were cows that came out of the Nile, so there was a Nile. The Nile is used to water the fields. And then, so this is a message for something about the crops. Then he saw that they were grazing. Grazing is something about the food. Then he saw that there were specifically cows. Cows are used for plowing. Then he saw the stalks. He put all these little details together. He came up with a conclusion, 7 good years, 7 bad years. Right? It's not just some I heard this before once. And he took every little detail, and that's how he interpreted a dream. When you interpret a dream, you have to look at everything. Right? That's why people come, I've had people come to me and say, interpretation of the dream is they saw X, just one little piece of information. I'm like, you got to give me more information than that. Right? Even though all the dreams that I would only interpret is only what the sources are. right? Only whatever the Torah says. That's what we could, at least that's whatever, me personally. So now the question is as follows. The next question is we spoke about interpretation, how important is interpretation for the dreams, and the dreams interpretation go after the mouth. Question is, can you interpret it for yourself? Can you go and say, okay, I had a dream. Let me interpret it for myself. Why do I have to start going bothering people? Let me just interpret it myself. I listened to 4 classes on YouTube about dream interpretation. I feel pretty good, right? I think I can interpret it myself. Can a person interpret it himself, the dreams?
Probably not.
So it's a machloket. So Ritva says, yeah, you could. There's one big rabbi who says, yeah, you can interpret it yourself. What's his proof? Shmuel in the Gemara, when he had a good dream, he was like, oh, you know, he brought a pasuk from the Torah saying that God's going to speak to somebody, to the people in the dreams. When he had a bad dream, he's which means that dreams mean. He brought another pasuk, which means dreams mean nonsense, right? So he took the good dreams, he interpreted everything for himself. So he says the Ritva uses that source, and he says that you could interpret the dreams for yourself. But Shlomo Almoli says no. He says that it's better to get others to interpret the dream for you. Now the question is, can the other person, let's say you bring it to somebody, does the other person, when he interprets it, can he just think about it, or does he have to actually verbally say it? So according to the Zohar, he should actually interpret it out loud to the person, right? To actually say the interpretation. Okay. So now, not only do you have to look at each detail in the dream interpretation, you also have to look at the person. Because each person, one dream going to 2 different people can mean 2 different things. For example, let's say you have someone dreams that there's a horse that's going through has a great difficulty to cross a river. So if, let's say, somebody who's a scholar, dreams about this, so what the dream interpretation for that would be that he's gonna come across, an obstacle, and he's gonna use his wisdom to overcome it. Now what happens if the guy is not a scholar, but he's a really strong guy, right? So that dream interpretation is gonna be a little bit different. The horse is gonna represent strength. It says you're gonna come through an obstacle, and through your strength you're gonna come by. So you have to look at all the details in the dream surrounding the dream and the person itself. And you have to put the 2 and 2 together. Yosef, when he saw the dream, very shortly I'm going to explain also, how did he know it was 3 days? How did he know? He put everything together. You realize that Paul is having a birthday party in 3 days. He put all this information together, and he took the information from the dream and from the person itself, right? So now there is, okay, so now we spoke about before is, what happens if you have a bad dream, and you say, I don't want to, forget it, I'm not thinking about it, right? So the Gemara says, if you don't interpret a dream, it's like it was an unopened letter, which means it means nothing. However, the Zohar says, what does that mean, you mean nothing? Somebody sends you a letter that robbers are coming to, better protect yourself, and you don't look at the letter.
Right, you get robbed.
You're gonna get robbed. Someone sends you a tip and says, hey, listen, invest in this. It's gonna, I'm bringing in a big stock over here. It's good. Not insider trading, because that's not allowed according to the law of land. But let's say something else and that idea. And you don't open up his message, and then he comes and be like, you could have made millions. Why didn't you listen to me? So, I didn't exist because I didn't open it. No, of course it exists. You just didn't open it. So this is the machloket between the Gemara and the Zohar. The Gemara says if you don't interpret a dream, it's like it was unopened letter. It doesn't exist. According to the Zohar, it says, what do you mean? It still exists. It just doesn't. The Zohar explains it, to simplify the two, and how that it's not really an argument. The Zohar says it's gonna come true, but you won't just realize it. You won't realize it because you didn't have the dream interpreted. Had you had the dream interpreted, you would have realized how it came true. So in any case, that's an idea. Either take it or leave it, whichever side you want to, how you want to go on it. So, but the idea is, if someone has a bad dream, the bad dream can be really a good dream. Again, the point of the bad dream is to wake you up from heaven. Tell you, listen, do tshuva. Do so. They're showing you that you have a gzera, a bad decree in heaven, and they're giving you basically inside secret tips and saying, listen, you have a chance to fix it. Fix it now. Don't push it off. Push off the dream. You don't want to bring it to dream interpretation, but at least let's say someone has a lot of bad dreams, and you don't want to go and start telling people bad dreams. The main thing is you start doing tshuva. You start doing tshuva, then you know that that you're in good hands, because that's the whole point of having bad dreams. So it's also important that we're gonna have to see now. There's a Gemara in Bava Kama, page 55a, that a person, even if he has, it seems like bad dreams, you should interpret it for the good. So he says over here that Rabbi Shmuel had a nephew, right? He had a nephew that had a bunch of dreams that he thought was very bad. He went over to his uncle, who was a rabbi, and he interpreted for him. And listen to the dreams that he said. So he said, first of all, he says that he saw his jaws fall out. So Rabbi Shmuel says, that's not such a bad thing. He says the 2 Roman legions are plotting evil against you, and they died. Then he says he saw his nose fall off. He says, nose, when a person gets angry, you have smoke coming out of your nose. He says that means that the anger against you went away. Then he saw his hands cut off. So he says, you'll be so rich you won't need to use your hands. Then he said his legs cut off. And he says you'll ride on a horse, you won't need to use your legs. So he took everything that was bad and he switched it into good. That's why a lot of people, they think, and we're going to soon see when we go into all the different dreams, some dreams that you thought were great dreams, really they're bad dreams. Some dreams that you thought were terrible dreams are really good dreams. And people don't know the difference between them. Okay. So, and the idea is that always, the Jewish philosophy is you always look for the good. You always have to look at the good in life, right? If you always look at the bad in life, what is it saying? It says poverty chases the poor. Why? Because a person is always think that he can't accomplish anything. He's always depressed, always can't do anything. He won't accomplish anything. A person thinks positive things happen, right? It's very important. You have to think positive. You have to, and you always have to not only think positive, but think positive for other people as well. And this story will illustrate it. There was once somebody went to Rabbi Yehoshua, a very famous rabbi in Israel, no longer alive. And he says, he comes over running, screaming, frantic, heart pounding. He says, Kvod Rav, I'm not going to my son's bris today. So the rabbi calms him down and says, listen, tell him, why are you not going to your son's bris? So he said his father passed away 4 months ago of this person who had a son. And he says his father's name was Yonatan. And he wanted to name the kid Yonatan after his father. Because the Ashkenazim, Sfaradim, the way that most Sfaradim do it is that they name after the alive. Mm-hmm. If you have a father that's alive and his name is whatever, Yaakov, and then you have a son, you name him Yaakov. After the father, it's not Ashkenazim, only name after the person who passed away. So he was Ashkenaz, and he wanted to name after his father who passed away. So he runs it, but the problem is, he tells the rabbi, he says, they had a neighbor who had a 5-year-old son who, Rahman al-San, he got hit by a car and he died. And, so his wife says, I don't want to, he had the same name. He had the name Yonatan, the same name as he wanted to name. So he says, so the wife said, listen, I don't want to name him after the same name of the kid that just passed away. Who knows what's going to happen? So the husband said, what's the difference? We're not naming after this kid. We're naming after, his father. So she said, no, I can't have it. So he runs over to this rabbi and he says, please, Rabbi, the bris is today. I'm not going to the bris unless the name of the kid, unless we settle this. And he told him, he says, listen, if you promise that nothing will happen bad to the kid, she would say that she'll name Yonatan. So the rabbi says, 100% you will absolutely not name this kid Yonatan. So he says, why can't I name this Yonatan? The rabbi says, I cannot give you that answer, but whatever you do not name this kid Yonatan. So the guy was like, but why? He says, that's what I'm telling you, and I cannot give you the reason. So he goes back and he goes to the bris and he names him a different name. And for months he's always thinking about this. He says, why did the rabbi tell me not to name him after his father? And why didn't he tell me? So he spoke to his friends. So every friend brought a different reason. He says, oh, you know why? Because of Shalom Bayit, right? You have to have a peace at the home. Another friend says, no, because of this kid that died and he's going to have the same name. It's not good luck for the kid. So finally, after a few months, it bothered him so much he went back to the rabbi. He says, Rabbi, I don't know if you remember, I came a few months ago about this kid, that passed away. Well,
probably because of the wife that she's going to keep thinking about it.
So he comes and he says, it's been a few months and I'm always thinking about this. I really want to name the kid after his father. And he said, it's really bothering me. Can you please explain to me why is it that you told me I can't name this kid after my father? So the rabbi said, he says, now I'll answer you. He says, because beforehand I wasn't able to give you the answer. It's because you wouldn't have been able to understand it. You were too much in the moment, and you wouldn't accept my answer. But now that a few months passed and you're relaxed, I'll tell you the reason why. He says, I didn't think about you when you told me the story. I didn't think about your wife. I didn't even think about the kid, to be honest. He said, I thought about one person, and that was Yonatan's mother, that 5-year-old boy's mother. You live in the same building as her. How do you think she's going to feel every time that you start screaming Yonatan, come in from playing? And she's going to be like, oh, my Yonatan, This is a rabbi. This is how a rabbi thinks. A rabbi thinks outside the box. Thinks good for everybody else. This is how important it is when somebody bad comes to you with a dream. Think outside the box. Think about that person. Why is he coming? What's the dream? What's the situation? And put all the pieces together. So now, it's getting late. I wanted to tell you a dream. Maybe we'll save it for afterwards. We'll come back. It's very interesting. The Gemara brings a story about a dream that a heretic had, Tzedoki, that and everything. It was like a terrible back and forth that was going back. If we have time, maybe we'll go back to it. If not, we'll skip it for now. So he says, Rabbi Shlomo Amoli, who wrote a book about dreams about 500 years ago, he explained. He says when you see a dream, he says you have to take you have to separate each part of the dream. You have to first find the important parts, and then you have to build upon that, and then you have to plug in everything together. Right? As like we said before, it's not just so simple as just, this is what it means. So, now we explained the dream with the baker. Let's explain the dream with the winemaker now, and then we'll go to specifics. So, he says that Yosef saw he had three branches that were coming out from the vines, right? In the dream of the guy who made the dream of the vines. Just for a recap, it was a winemaker who was thrown in prison, and he saw a dream that he saw three tendrils, which are like vines coming up, and from those tendrils he saw budding, and from the budding it turned into grapes, and from the grapes he squeezed the grapes into Paro's cup. So now Yosef went and he interpreted it. 3 days you're going to go back into the palace. How did he get to that? So he saw three branches, so he knew it was three of a time period. But he didn't know what was the time period. Is it 3 months, 3 years, 3 days, 3 weeks? What is a time period? So he looked at the process of the budding of the vines. Now, generally, the way that the vines of grapes, the way they work, is that it's a 3 process. It has the budding, and then it has the immature grapes, and then it has mature grapes. So, but he saw in the dream that it went from budding, it skipped the middle stage. It went straight to the mature grapes. So he saw that speed was involved over here. He said if speed is involved over here, it must be that it's not 3 years, but it's a short period of time. Therefore, he says, it must be that it was 3 days. And he took that, and he says, and 3 days is Paro's birthday. And he figured the same idea, and he took the same, every little part he looked at, he took it out, built on it, and then he gave the real dream interpretation, and we saw exactly what he said is exactly what happened. Okay, so now, I want to go through all different types of dream interpretation for the next, I don't know how much ever time that we have.
You have another question there?
No. So, I have here, and this is the abridged version, about 30 pages of different, of dreams. Now, of what each specific dream means. Now, I can't sit and read every single one because it's going to take us...
We should do the most common ones, and then if you have time...
Oh, we could go back?
We can go to...
We have to see. So we'll go through, and generally, this part is, I'm going to have to look inside and read from my notes, because I'm just going to go basically plow through everything. I'll try to leave the questions till at the end. This is also that if someone ever has something to dream, he could go look back and, and see whatever it is that was related. Right, all these were not. I didn't make up any of these stuff. This is all sourced in the Torah from either great rabbis or from all through the oral law. Okay, so now the first parts we're going to go is we're going to say speak specific. If you saw dreams in specific lands, if you saw in the land of Israel, the interpretation is God will lead you there. If you saw it in Jerusalem, God will give you a post of authority. Right, and this is how we're going to go. By the way, through the entire dream interpretation. If you see something, what's interpretation? If you saw it in Ethiopia, you are in a dream in Ethiopia, you'll find yourself in great trouble. In Egypt, you will receive a great amount of good. If you see yourself digging earth, if you're healthy, there's no need for concern. If you're ill, then it's not a good sign. If you see yourself moving from city to city, you will travel long distance. If you see a wall in your house fall down, death and trouble are near. This is a very bad sign, and some people actually fast for this type of walls and pillars will soon see also. If you see yourself going up to the roof, right, you're climbing up to the roof, you'll rise to greatness, right? The general idea when you're going up in your dream is good, when you're going down is usually not that good. If you see yourself going down from the roof, then you're going to lose your greatness. If you see beams of your house fall, a child will die. If you see a ceiling fall, your wife will die. If you see yourself in a high place, so now we're going to look at 3 different things from a high place. If you see yourself, you're in the high place, then you will attain friendship of high. If you see yourself looking out from a high place, this signifies a long life. If you see yourself ascending, you're going to a high place, it is a good sign for you and for your children. If you see yourself going up a ladder, it's a good sign. If you see yourself getting arrested by an officer, that means you're being guarded from harm. If you see that you're being put in chains, then your protection is great and even greater increase. Because when a person is and it's specifically in chains and not rope. When a person is bound, he can't go anywhere. So he's all enclosed into that. And here we see someone sees that he gets locked up by an officer. It says, it must be a bad dream. You see, no, it's a good dream. So the Gemara says also, if you see a well in the dream, you'll have peace. Another Rabbi Natan says that he will find Torah. If you see yourself standing in the rain, it signifies good tidings. It's a good sign. If you see yourself drowning in the sea, signifies either illness or a loss of money. If you see yourself drinking water, it is a good sign. If you're bathing in a spring, is also a good sign. If you're bathing in hot water, the trouble will pass you by. If you're bathing in cold water, the troubles will be diminished and you will receive good news. If you see yourself set your house on fire, you will be involved in a machloket, in a dispute. If you see yourself finding gold or silver, you'll be honored. If you see yourself worshipping a silver or gold idol, you'll come to the situation which you will be hated. If it is made out of wood, you'll become poor. Now some foods. If you see yourself eating the following stuff. Melons, sickness will befall you. Peas or beans, your circumstance will improve. Horseradish, you'll have a good life. Wheat, your circumstance will improve. It's foretelling an increase of silver and gold money, basically. So, turnips. If you see turnips, things will be difficult. And there's a question the Gemara asks. It says that Rab saw a turnip and he didn't become rich only until after he saw the turnip in a dream. So here we see the turnips is a good sign. We just said that turnips is not a good sign. So the answer is he saw them when it was attached to the ground. If they're attached to the ground, it's a good sign. If they're detached, it's a bad sign. It's a bad sign. And we saw, if you don't remember the story I told you earlier today, was Rava, he saw 2 turnips detached, and he got 2 lashes for that. So, in general, bitter herbs is a bad sign. If you see grass, if you see yourself eating grass, these are all if you're eating it. You see yourself eating grass, you'll find sustenance. Right? Parasha. If you see radish, your circumstance will improve. Flour, also your circumstance will improve. Cucumbers is not good, his illness will befall you. Garlic signifies problem. Myrtle is like the hadassim. If you see myrtle, your property will prosper. Vineyard, if you see yourself planting a vineyard, it is a good sign.
Good sign?
Good sign, if you're planting the vineyard. If you see broken beams, it's a bad sign. As we said before, if a pillar falls, it's also trouble and fear. If you see a fig tree, Torah knowledge will be preserved with you. Now some fruits. That was vegetables. Now let's go through some fruits. If you see yourself eating... we're actually going through this a lot faster than I thought. Great. But I could have put more stuff in there. If you see yourself eating nuts, you'll have a good life. Olives are generally good. Whoever sees olives in the dream, if they're little ones, his business will be fruitful and they'll increase like an olive. If he sees... but this is if he sees the fruit. If he sees the trees, it means he'll have many sons. Others say whoever sees the olives in his dream will acquire a good name. Lemon is not good. Becoming poor. I don't know, maybe this is where they got you. You get a bad car and you call it a lemon. I don't know, maybe they picked it up. Yeah, lemon is generally, not a good sign. So, raisins. If you see raisins, your situation is going to be improved. Why? Grapes generally can become rot. They can rot. Raisins, once they become raisins, there's no loss. They're at a profit. So too, you will profit. Drunkenness. If you see yourself drunk, you will have great trouble, but you will be saved from it. If you see a drunk, your situation will improve. Intoxicating beverages, right? If you see any type of intoxicating, any alcoholic beverage that makes you drunk or intoxicating, you will have property and wealth. It's a good sign. Okay. Let's go to animals. If you see a sheep or an ox, it's a good sign. If you see cows, if you see ox or cows, you will see the downfall of your enemies. Also a good sign. Camel. If you see a camel in your dream, heaven has decreed for him, and he is saved from a decree, which is a good sign. If you see a group of camels, however, it's a bad sign. If you see yourself leading one camel in a group of camels, your luck is going to change for the better. If you see a pig, you have good earnings prepared for you. See, it's a good sign. If you see yourself eating pig's meat, you'll add wealth to your wealth. If you see yourself riding a pig, you'll be protected from your enemy, and if you eat its meat, it's a good sign. Donkey. If you see a donkey, you should accept the Geula, redemption. Now, if you see yourself riding a white donkey, happiness will soon befall you. Either in regard to his wife or inheritance, he explains. If you see yourself falling from the donkey, it's a bad sign. Other people say that it means the bad sign is poverty. If you see yourself eating a donkey's meat, is also a bad sign. Again, it could be poverty.
So it sounds like donkey is like kind of a holy thing for the dreams. So if
only if you're riding it. Only if you're riding it. Yeah, and you're not falling, right? I'm skipping a lot of parts in it, but now I think that maybe I could go into more detail of it. There's donkeys. If you see yourself plowing with a donkey, there will be a loss. If you see yourself riding a king's donkey, you'll be great. If you see yourself riding a donkey without a saddle, you'll be blessed. If you see yourself riding a donkey with a saddle, then accept the Mashiach. You know? So there's so many different variants and all these things. I'm just trying to pick the most popular ones that, because how many people are going to be seeing that they're riding a king's donkey? There's no kings. Obama's donkey going to be riding? Who's donkey, right?
I wonder if Obama even has a donkey.
Maybe in Kenya. So, horses. Whoever sees a white horse in a dream, it doesn't matter if it's walking gently or it's running, it's a good sign. A red horse walking gently is a good sign. Running is a bad sign. There's a source in Brachot. If you see yourself riding a horse, greatness will be yours. It's from Rabbi Goen. At Sefer Nefesh HaChaim, it says, whoever rides a horse in a dream should rejoice. Why should he rejoice? Because the word in Hebrew for horse is sus. And the word for rejoice in Hebrew is sos. Sos tasis. The word for horse and the word for rejoice is very similar in Hebrew. A mule. If you see yourself riding a mule, oh no, I'm sorry, I skipped about the horse. If you see yourself falling from a horse, you'll fall seriously ill. If you see yourself eating a horse's meat, then God has prepared for you sustenance and your money will be protected. Right? We're going to explain all these things, right? Don't start going eating horse's meat because it's not kosher. You're not allowed to. All these things, you're not allowed to, most of these things you're not allowed to do is specifically for in the dreams, right? Otherwise it's not. We're going to soon go into a little bit more graphic things. So, if you're riding on a mule, trouble will come upon a person. If you're falling off the mule, you will die at that time. Lions. If you see yourself struggling with a lion and you win, you will win over your enemies. If a lion is chasing you, the enemies lie in wait and they're looking for you. If you see a bear and it's attacking you, it signifies a machloket, a dispute.
Beer?
A beer. Yeah.
Oh.
If you see a bear's head in your hand, you will obtain illegal wealth. Right? Which we know that's all too common, unfortunately. If you see a snake in your dream, we said that it's a good sign. It's for Parasha. Your Parasha is short. If it bites you, it's doubled. Now, if you see the snake on your lap, again, the Parasha, your sustenance is assured. If you see, however, a snake in water and you have no wife, you will marry. However, if you have a wife, you will be widowed. So see how it depends on the person what he sees. Elephant. If you see an elephant, the Gemara says, if you see an elephant in a dream, miracles will be performed for you. Elephants are a good sign if they're saddled. A bad one if they're not saddled. And if you'll ride on an elephant, you'll attain greatness. Now there are many times that that God does him many wonders, many greatness, and a person doesn't even realize it. There is a chapter in Tehillim, Psalm 117. It says, Hallelu Hashem kol goyim, shabachu kol ha'omim, ki kavah aleinu chaza, ve'emes Hashem l'olam halleluka. Now what does that mean? It says all the nations of the world are going to praise God for all the miracles they did for the Jews. Now why are they the ones that are praising? Because they're the ones that wanted to cause so much pain and so much problems for the Jews, and they see how all their problems are getting foiled. For every terrorist attack that unfortunately comes to fruition, there are hundreds of who knows how many that were failed. Right? Mossad thinks it's all them, but really God is sending them all the messages and all the things that they need to do to avoid it. There's so many sicknesses that a person could happen in the body that God makes it that there was a disease, they were supposed to catch a cold, and somehow, or not a cold, but let's say they're supposed to catch some sort of virus or a bacterial infection, and God makes it go and disappear. We don't see it. When do we see it? At the end. When the non-Jews, right? There's some they once asked. I think it was CNN once went over to Hamas, and they said, because they in the war, I think it was 2014 when they fired tons and tons of rockets into Israel. So CNN came over and they went to interview this Hamas the guy who's and he said, listen, they tell him, he says, why does your aim suck? He says, why can't you aim? You have a whole land of Israel, 95% of your missiles miss target. So the Hamas, and this is the Hamas, they answered back to him, CNN, they answered back to him, says, what can we do that the Allah of the Jews are saving them? Yeah. He says, we have the most sophisticated, to date, we have never had such sophisticated missiles that we can pinpoint exactly where it needs to land. But what can we do that their God saves them? Right? Here we see, how how many terrorist tunnels were collapsed that we didn't even know about? It says, this is what it means that the nations of the world will praise God. Here we see exactly, then Hamas praising God for indirectly. He says the nation of the world are praising God for what? Because there's so many miracles that can happen, and a person, doesn't even realize it. A person can have a dream of an elephant. He's going to have wonders, and he says nothing happened. He says you don't know what just happened. You don't know all the wonders that you could have had. right? A person doesn't know all the things that they could have had, all the money that they just prevented from getting lost, all the sicknesses, all the unfortunate deaths and everything like that they just avoided. So now dogs. This is a good one. Dogs. Unfortunately, many people have dogs, right? Interesting halacha that came up is: are you allowed to have a dog? Right?
You're not allowed.
So it's better not to. It's halachically, there's no halacha. There's nothing in halacha that says you're not allowed to have a dog. There's a problem with making bracha, and if you touch it, you have to wash it.
But if he lives in your backyard,
yeah, that's better. That's better. Generally, dogs are impure, and it's a problem to pray next to a dog. It's a problem to make a blessing next to a dog. You know, if you have a dog and you play with it, and then you go and you pray, it's a problem. You have to wash your hands before you do that, right? So generally, it's better not to have a dog. But if you do have, I know, and nowadays everybody has 1 kid and 3 dogs, right? And it's generally better not to have dogs. But if you have dogs, you know, at least you should know what you need to do. So now, what happens if you dream about dogs? So if you see a dog running, you are the subject of gossip, right? People are talking to you. Dogs bark. If you see yourself playing with dogs, your enemies will love you. If you see dogs barking before you, your enemies' plans will succeed. If you see a dog barking behind you, right, so we said that's in front of you. And behind you, your enemies lie in wait for you. If a dog has bitten you, your enemies will prevail against you. If you see yourself eating dog meat, you'll move from place to place. If you see yourself killing a dog, your enemies have been moved elsewhere. A good sign. A mouse. If you see a mouse, you will meet someone new. Sounds almost like a horoscope, but this is real. As opposed to, yeah. Today, if you saw previously on your dream a mouse, you're going to meet someone special. So, but it says you'll meet someone new. Birds. All types of birds, the Gemara says, are a good sign except for an owl, a horned owl, and a bat. Now, I think because of that, that's a pretty blanket thing, so we could skip most of the birds. But we'll skip out about an ostrich. If you see yourself pursuing an ostrich and you don't catch up to it, that means that you're going to pursue wealth, you're going to chase after money, but you're not going to get it. If you see yourself riding an ostrich, and you're sitting on an ostrich and it's riding, you'll attain greatness. If you see bees, your enemies will attack you. An eagle. If you see an eagle, or in general a flying bird, you'll attain greatness. Remember we said birds are generally a good sign. If you see yourself hunting an eagle, you'll become wealthy. If you see yourself slaughter an eagle, you'll rule over people. If you see yourself eating eagle's flesh, again, not kosher, but if you see yourself eating eagle's flesh, you'll be needed by people. This is Rabbi going. An owl. So we said owl is not a good sign. Owl. If you see yourself slaughtering an owl, it portends a financial loss. If you see an owl over your house, you'll have a cause to mourn. If fish, in general, if you see yourself, fish is a lot over here, maybe we'll go back to fish. If you see yourself catching fish with a hook or a net, God will give you a good life. Milk. There, let's go to animal products. Milk. If you see milk, wealth and greatness will be yours and your luck will improve. If you see yourself selling milk, greatness will be yours. Now again, if let's say that your occupation is you're a farmer and you have cows and all day you're milking cows.
Right, that's
that
right.
doesn't so
But does it mean animal milk, or it could be breast milk, or it could be something else?
This says specifically milk.
So it doesn't matter what kind of milk.
Yeah, yeah. Then there is a difference of a mother's milk or milk. Okay, so this is what I was thinking about. The way that's wise is the way I like to present it. So we're going to be going through some certain dream interpretations that are a little bit on the mature side. So bear with me on that. But now all these things that I'm going to be going through this, and I'll bring it again by each one because I have to preempt it. It's if this is what you've been thinking about all day, it means nothing, right? And you're not allowed to be thinking about certain things. So if you see yourself, so like say a mother's milk, if you see yourself nursing from a woman's breast, it signifies improvement. If you're nursing from like full breast, then your luck and your situation will greatly improve. If you drink milk from various animals and it's sour, generally that's a bad sign. If you drink milk from various animals and it's sweet, it's a good sign of high going. If you see yourself milking sheep or goats, wealth will be yours. All eggs are good signs except ostrich eggs. And
Is ostrich kosher?
I don't believe so, no. I don't think so. I don't believe it is. So, But then again, we don't eat it. So like giraffe is kosher, but we just also don't
Giraffe
eat
is
it.
kosher?
Giraffe is kosher. There's
Yeah,
just
but you don't know where to cut it.
there's other problems in it. And it's also very expensive. And I don't think it's that
so
tasty. Who wants to eat giraffe meat? I think it's very hard. Okay, if you see yourself eating blood, you'll be saved from trouble. There are 3 things, the Gemara says, that if you see in the dream will symbolize peace. A river, a bird, and a pot. Okay. There's different parts about limbs. Maybe we'll go back to this also. Limbs. Let me put this up over here. Okay, cannibalism. Right? Not something you should be thinking about during the day. If you see yourself eating human flesh, you will hate a friend. If you see yourself eating a human head, you will consume everything you have in illness. Right? And again, if you've been watching movies, which is a problem as it is, but let's say you're watching movies where you see cannibalism and that's what you fall asleep, unfortunately watching this nonsense, and you dream about this, again, that's nonsense. That doesn't mean anything. Okay. Testicles. If you see one of your testicles fall, you'll fall ill and recover. If you see the male organ, and just to have, not to say the things, I think you all understand what I'm talking about. If you see it, you'll have a son. And if it gets cut off, you'll die that year. In the dream, right? If you see your nipples cut off, it's a sign of trouble. If you see yourself urinating blood, your wife will miscarry. If you see yourself ill, then you should rejoice. You'll have rejoicing during that year. If you see your hands cut off, you'll not need to use your hands. Again, remember the story we said before. If you see in the dream you're sleeping, it's a good sign. And we said also before, if you see jaws fall off, it means those that are plotting against you will die. If you see your intestines come out, you will bury your children. Again, because your children are part of you, and then when part of you comes out, you're burying your children. Bloodletting. Generally, there's different things of bloodletting. In the olden days, they used to put like leeches and they used to suck out the blood. So bloodletting, if someone sees it depends how much blood and all these different criteria, but let's just go generalize because we have a few more pages to go through. And generally, the bloodletting is his sins are forgiven. So generally, it's a good sign. Death. Here's another one that people think is a very bad one, and it's actually an amazing one. If you see yourself die in a dream, it's a good sign. It's a good sign that you live a long life. If you see your nose bleeding, you will take ill, but you will recover. If you have pain in your eyes, it's a bad sign. If you dream that you're moving your bowels, you're in the bathroom and you're moving your bowels, it's a good sign. If you see that your fingernail is torn and bad looking, it's a sign of wisdom. If you see yourself that you've got taller, your height increased, you will live many years. If you see yourself washing your head, you will be saved from every trouble. If you see yourself riding on another man's neck, right? I presume that this means on his shoulders, or I'm not, or it could possibly also be on 4s, and you're sitting on his neck. So it's either one of those. You'll ride on the neck of your enemies, and you'll defeat them. If you see yourself running in a dream, it's a good sign. If you see, there are many people that have the dream where they're running, but they're not moving, right? So you know what it is? You're trying to run away from people, and you're running in slow motion, and everyone's catching up to you, and then you wake up before they catch you. So generally, running is a good sign in a dream. If you see your teeth grow long, it's a good sign. If the molars fall out, your daughters or sisters will die. Says Rabbi Yehoshua. If you see a black tooth, trouble will soon come. If it's a loose tooth, it signifies an illness. If you see a loose tooth in a dream and then it falls out, it foretells death. And this reason why many people, if they have dreams with tooth fall out, it's a one, the serious one, and you should fast, or you should at least, if you're not fasting, give tzedakah, give charity, like we spoke about in Dreams lecture number 3. Do tshuva, repentance, do something, repent.
But by doing this, you can actually save somebody from dying?
Yeah. You're doing, the reason why they're showing it to you, why are they showing it to you? If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. If they're showing it to you, it must be that you specifically can do something about it.
Because I know a person who, it happens to her all the time, whenever she sees
tooth fall out, she has to do tshuva. She has to do some, whatever she's been working, she has to do, also give charity, and she has to do some tshuva. If she does some tshuva, because they're showing it to her, that as a sign, again, if she works as a dentist or a dental hygienist, and that's her job, or she just went to the dentist that day, then forget about it. But if she's just a regular person, that's not her profession or anything like that, and she keeps on dreaming about these things, she should have, definitely do tshuva. The tshuva, if she doesn't keep Shabbat, let her start to keep Shabbat, modesty. Something, these are one of the, there's very few things, there was a lot of bad dreams, but there's very few things that specifically they say, these, you fast. So this is she doesn't have to fast. if she can't handle it. But the main thing is do tshuva. Even it's better than fasting. Is you do tshuva on something particular. You take, let's say, if she doesn't keep Shabbat, let her start keeping Shabbat. Modesty, let her start keeping modesty. Right? Whatever it is, she should take upon herself something. And then God will spare anything that. But again, we didn't. It's only specific things. This is one of them. Falling and beams also. They say falling means that as well. Okay. Shaving. If you see you shave your head in a dream, it's a good sign for you. If you shave your head and your beard, it's a good sign for you and for your family. If you see yourself fasting, it's a bad sign. Right? And people also, is another reason that people would fast, even on Shabbat, for someone fasting, especially if they see themselves fasting on Yom Kippur. It's on Yom Kippur and Eilah. Okay. So, and then there's also dreams if you see certain people from the Gemara. But I'm going to skip this part again. Maybe if we have time, we'll go back to it. Certain dreams, if you see certain rabbis in the Gemara, each one means something else. For example, if you see Rabbi Akiva, you should look for wisdom. You see Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, you look for greatness of wealth. You see Rabbi Shmuel, you should fear punishment. I'm sorry, Rabbi Shmuel, if you see Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha, yeah, you should fear punishment, right? So each one has a different type of thing, but then again, you dream that. How do you know who that person is? So I had a few people that came to me and said they dreamt the big rabbis. And I said, do you know who that rabbi was? And they weren't able to. Sometimes, even if you never seen the person before, you could say who it was. So they weren't able to say who it was. But if you know specifically who it was, then you have a very specific dream interpretation. If you see a king in a dream, you will attain greatness. If you see a slave in a dream, it's a bad sign. If you see a maidservant, so that was a male slave. If you see a maidservant, it's a good sign. Okay, now regarding intercourse with women.
That's a slave and this is a servant.
Yeah, so male versus female. A male servant versus a female servant. Okay, regarding intercourse with women, this is there's going to be a little bit things that people, it will be hard to understand, but this is how the Gemara explains it. So bear with me. Again, for a mature audience. If somebody is in a dream, he's committing incest with his mother. That means he should look forward, understanding, right? It's a good sign. It means there's understanding. Rav Goen says that it denotes that you will live a good life and you may look forward to obtaining understanding. If somebody is dreaming that he commits incest with his sister, you should look forward to wisdom. And again, you have these dreams, oh my God, you throw up, and how is this even possible? Well, this is actually good dreams. Whoever dreams that he committed adultery with a married woman, he should be assured that he has a portion in the world to come. Isn't that amazing? But this is very specific, refers to a case where he does not know her, and he definitely did not think about her. Right? If you have a coworker that's married, and unfortunately can't stop looking at her and fantasizing about her, and then you dream about that, that means nothing, right? All it means is you need to get a new job.
So
right?
if you don't fantasize about her and all of a sudden you dreamt at night,
you don't know who this woman is, or you know that she's married, you never thought about her, you never saw her before, that's a good sign.
So cheating in the dream is a good sign.
Depends, yeah. Well, yeah. In this case, yeah. Yeah, in this case, yeah, you're right. Not you, but the she's with that, right? Okay.
Women,
she's the one who's the problem, who's cheating. Oh, and if you're married, yeah.
Right.
If you're single, you could still have a dream. Yeah. Okay, so now if you see a woman's nipples, it's a sign of wealth. If you see a woman that's giving birth, one of your relatives will die. Not a good sign. If you see a bed that's made, it's a good sign. If you see yourself having intercourse with a male, it's a bad sign. Evil times will befall you. If you see yourself lying with a menstruating woman, a woman on her period, it's a bad sign. If you lie with a prostitute, you sleep with a prostitute, it signifies improved circumstances. Salvation and money will come to you. Again, this means that you aren't thinking about any prostitutes, and for sure, you never, you haven't been with a prostitute.
Normal person wouldn't think about the prostitutes.
Let's hope that normal people won't. Yes, I like that. I like your thought process. Yeah, but this is the idea that you keep your mind and clean. Right now, day and age, everyone's looking at everything and looking at every corner and looking at all these things, and they have these dreams. It comes from the evil side, not from the good side. Right? We're talking about somebody who is with the Torah, who is watching his eyes, he's watching his thoughts, he's not looking at things that he's not supposed to, and he has these types of dreams, then those types of dreams mean those things that we went through. However, if you're going and you're doing who knows what, then you have to change yourself, and don't start thinking, that now that you fantasize that you slept with there's also a virgin. If someone sleeps with a virgin, it's also a good sign. So, good sign, yeah. So, you have to, these are people that you're sticking with Torah, and you're keeping your mind and eyes clean. If you see yourself with a woman's hair on you, ugly things will be said about you. I have to be careful. I have to say that in women's class. right? But it's nothing against the woman. It was just the dream interpretation. If you see yourself with a woman's hair, ugly things are being said about you. Nothing against a woman specifically. So, just to clarify, if you see yourself staying in a cemetery overnight, you'll spend the night in jail. If you see yourself kill someone, a miracle will be performed for you. Again, you see the opposite.
Right.
If you see yourself dead, you have done something for which God brings you closer to Him. Daniel,
You did something bad?
if you see yourself dead,
Oh,
dead. Daniel says life will be added to your years, which we spoke about also earlier. Here's very important, which comes. This is probably one of the most common dreams that I've heard. Is if you see a dead person, if he takes something from the house, is a good sign, except for a shoe or a sandal, and if he puts anything down, it's a good sign, except for dust or mustard, which is very thin, like dust. So this is the Gemara in Bahad. If you see dead bodies in a dream and you're healthy, have no fear. But if you're ill, it's a bad sign. If you see a dead relative, this is it. If you see a dead relative come to you, you'll be wealthy. If a dead man embraces you or kisses you, or even more, if he bites you, trouble will befall you. Now, if you see a corpse giving you something, it indicates improved circumstance. But if the object is something which begins with the letter nun or lamed, which again you have to know Hebrew for it, you'll become poor. But generally, if a corpse gives you something, then it depends. It's a good sign. Then it really depends if what he gives you. So,
Like, example, what he can give you. That's a bad sign.
oh, I have to look. Something that starts with a nun or a lamed. I don't know. He gives you a. Nothing's coming to mind. Maybe something pops to my mind. Sorry. Nun is something that starts with a n, but it's in Hebrew, not in English. And lamed is a l, l and a nun, l and an n. But again, in the Hebrew. So this is what Rabbi Goen says. Okay, where were we? And that's why people say, they saw a dead person in a dream. So I always ask, did you hug him or kiss him? Did they come closer? Did they embrace you? Were they happy? Were they sad? Did they give you something? Also very important to ask. Okay, now. If a dead person gives a living one something like a weapon or something out of iron, he should feel secure no matter where he goes. It's a good sign. If you see a deceased father or mother, then you have a joyful occasion will be yours. So some people have the parent that passed away, comes into them in the dream, it's usually a good sign. Now again, if they're crying or if they're sad, if it's darkness, it means there's a whole bunch of different things. Sometimes parents come because the kids are not saying Kaddish, or the kids are not keeping Shabbat, and it's hurting the parents. If a kid sins and it comes into the effect of the parent gets punished for it.
Grandparents also.
Everyone all the way back, yeah. As long as, if let's say the parents did everything they could for the kid, and the kid went off anyway, then they're not held responsible, because what are you supposed to do? Some kids are just off. But let's say they did a general upbringing, and they're good parents, and it was good, and the kid didn't do anything, so it affects the parents. That's why sometimes you have parents that come, and it's a very big, they don't let everybody just go into dreams, right? Otherwise everybody would be flooded with dreams. People they get permission to come to their sons in a dream, or their children or their daughters in a dream. So, if you see yourself buried, and I'm sorry, let me go back to a deceased parent. If you see them, you'll have a joyful occasion will be yours. Really, that's a good sign. If they give you something, all the more so. So this is different than the other thing that we spoke about before. This is if a parent is a different category. If you see yourself buried, you'll be given over into the power of a cruel person. If you see burial clothes in a dream, you have performed a deed for which God will bring you close to Him. Okay, we're almost done. A few more minutes. I have a few more pages. So, you guys okay with that?
Yeah.
How much time do we have?
Maybe 5 to 7 minutes.
Okay, so let's hurry up. So, okay. If you see you're in a dream that you have lost your clothes, it signifies a loss. If you see your wife wearing your clothes, it means she will inherit you. If you see yourself wearing gold or silver, you will attain greatness. I'm going to start speeding it up so we could finish up over here. If you see yourself wearing a new prayer, a new talit, a new prayer shawl, you will marry. If you see yourself wearing, I don't know why I did this is a jacket, I'm talking about a prayer shawl with the big tzitzit, the big talit. If you see a royal crown on your head, good fortune will soon come to you. Skip up to these. If you see your clothes torn in your dream, heavenly decree regarding you has been torn up. If you see clothes suddenly burn up, you will profit. If you see yourself naked, it signifies shame or trouble. Now, there's a bunch of different things. If you see certain stars or moons or suns, certain heavens, we'll skip those. If you see thunder and lightning without rain, your generation is sinful and God is angry with them. If the Tagama says, if you answer Amen Yehesh Merabah in your dream, you can be assured that you have a portion in the world to come. One of the best dreams, right? That's an amazing dream. If you see a Torah scroll burnt in the dream, it's a bad sign. Some people take this so seriously that someone also dreams on Shabbat for this thing. If you see yourself saying the Shema, right? You say the Shema in a dream. It means that it's also an excellent dream. It means that you're worthy of having the divine presence rest on you, just as Moses was. But your generation is not worthy of it happening. Tefillin. If you see yourself putting on tefillin, look forward to greatness. Also an excellent sign. Then I have okay. If you see yourself praying, it's a good sign. If you didn't finish, right, which means that it shows your closeness to God. Okay.
If you didn't finish.
If you didn't finish. Okay. So
and if you did?
It doesn't say. The Gemara doesn't say. The Gemara in Bachot 57 just says that. Okay. So now there's different foods that according to astrologers represent a different type of astrology. So I'm going to go through a few of them, and then you'll see, and I'm going to go through them quick. So the astrologers, he brings it down from Shlomo Amolis. He brings it down in his book. He says you should be aware of foods and drugs associated with Mars, which denotes falsehood. Finished? Oh, it beware. So food and drugs which are Mars are not good sign. These food result in false dreams. Foods associated with Mercury, Saturn, and the Sun, however, are true. So he brings from the Mars, which is not good, are any tree which has thorns, and then he gives some examples of other ones: pears, peppers, mustard, cumin, radish, leek, garlic. Right? We're going to go skip to the other ones. The good signs are Saturn is carob, crab apples, and lentils. And the sun is sheep, grapevine, olive, apple, berries, and figs. Right? Review it, watch it again slowly. We're going to go fast now. This is what it means that all dreams go after the mouth. As you eat certain foods, it can emphasize if you have real dreams or fake dreams. That's what we said before. The ones that are from Mars were fake dreams, and the one from Saturn and the sun were real dreams. Okay, so the dates of where it will be done in like 3 minutes. Dates of when you dream, right? It depends. This is again written on Shlomo Amoli's Sefer. He writes that in Bereshit Rabbah, it says when Yosef told his father about the dream, his father heard the dream of Shemad about what it means that he kept the thing. He marked when he had the dream, what time, and what date. So then Shlomo Amoli goes on specific dates of what in the month, what it means. So I want to go through it really quickly. If you have the first day of the month, again, this is the Jewish month. If you have the first day of the month, whatever you dream will turn into joy. Day 2 to 3, there is no truth in them. 4 to 5, whatever you dream will come to pass after a long time. Day 6, whatever you dream will come to pass, whether good or evil. Day 7, whatever you dream will come to pass after a while. Day 8 or 9, whatever your dream will come to pass as you dreamt it. Day 10 to 11, whatever you dream will come to pass after a while, but without accident. Day 12, whatever you dream will come soon to pass. Day 13 and 14, whatever you dream will come to pass as you dream with it within 18 days. And therefore you should pray, and if it's bad, you should also go into tshuva. Day 15 and 16, whatever you dream will come to pass after a while. 17, whatever you dream will come to pass into 4 or 5 days, and afterwards you will rejoice. 18 and 19, whatever you dream will come to pass after a long time. Day 20 to 21, if they come to pass, there will be rejoicing, because people say these dreams of these days are usually fake. Day 22, if you arise, it will come to pass within 8 days. Day 23, whatever you dream will turn into an argument and dispute. Day 24, you'll go out in peace and rejoicing. Day 25 to 26, the dream will be fulfilled in 8 or 10 days. But meanwhile, it says, pray to God. Day 27 to 28 and 29, you will return to peace and rejoicing. And day 30th, you'll be in distress and ask God for mercy. Again, I know I sped through this. If anybody ever was watching wants this, I could always send them the information. I wanted to finish with just one final story. That there was once, and we'll finish with this idea. There was once a woman by the name of Claire Sylvia. True story. 47-year-old woman, a teacher from Boston, right? This is, and she was a teacher. She was a dancer. She was to teach dance, and she had a terrible disease called primary pulmonary hypertension, which is very bad and it's very debilitating. And she ended up being in a wheelchair and always on oxygen. And so much so that, all she wanted was, she kept on praying that every day she was happy that she lived another day. That's how bad it was. And she wanted just to be able to see her daughter graduate. Her daughter was graduating high school in 1 year. So before, the only thing that could have helped her was have a lung transplant, a lung and a heart transplant. So before she even knew anything about the possibility of having a heart transplant, she had a dream. And in her dream, she had a transplant, and she had to drink 4 glasses of milk a day. At the time that she had this, she didn't understand it. What happened? She pushed it on the side. finally, after days and days of her praying, her prayers were finally answered, and the phone rang. It was a transplant coordinator, and she said, "We finally got permission, and we've got a donor that you will have his, the heart and lungs transplant ready. We need to come in ASAP." She runs into the to the hospital that same day. She says all she could say was, "Oh, thank you God, thank you God, thank you God." She couldn't, So after a few hours, she went into it was a 3-hour operation, and when she got out of the operation, the doctors told her they have to take an anti-rejection drug called cyclosporine, which is a drug that if you put something foreign in your body automatically wants to reject it, so it prevents it. So in order to drink that, she had to drink it with 2 cups of milk. And she had to do it twice a day, once in the morning and once at night. This, by the way, is not Jewish stories. This is not when this happened, it was in the May of 1988. So her operation, Sylvia's operations, was Connecticut's Yale New Haven Hospital first successful heart-lung transplant on a female patient. So after she got out of surgery, the reporters, I think it was like a few days actually. I think it was 5 days. 5 days later, journalists were invited to interview her. So they asked her, they said, "Now that you have the operation, what do you want to do right now more than anything else?" So she said, to be honest, she says, "Right now I'll die for a beer." And the second she said that, she was like, well, she didn't realize what, she's like, and she thought to herself, she's like, "I hate beer. I don't like beer." She never liked beer. She's like, "What do I want?" She had this craving for beer. And things started getting strange after that. She started, right after she got out of the hospital, I think 5 weeks after the operation. And when she was allowed to drive home for the first time, she went straight to KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken, against not a Jew. And she said she never liked KFC before. And she couldn't explain it. And she had she said she started looking at women the way that men look at women. And she didn't understand a lot of weird things. Started liking green peppers. And she used to always take green peppers out of her salad. So, after she got a little better, she had a very strong urging to go visit friends. Finished? She had a very strong urging to go visit friends.